I hope you have your banana sandwiches ready because it's potassium time. Who is Bananaman? Where did he come from? Why is he here? I don't know, but together we will unpeel the truth behind our big banana man. Some of you may be surprised to learn that Bananaman isn't a Beano original. Some of you may even be shocked to learn he isn't even a Dandy OG. The Man of Peel actually began in what I assume may have been someone's favorite comic, Hoot. Remember Hoot? Okay, I'm lying. He began in Nutty. Fun fact though, Nutty is also the origin of a nasty little baby character who would become the Hoot mascot. It all comes back to Hoot. Always, and that's why we must remember it. The Nutty comic. The Nutty was actually pretty good. It was created to be a wackier, more fun comic than the Dandy. An incredibly easy task that it succeeded in for about 5 years and 292 issues. Its last issue coming out at the end of '85. Nutty has some interesting legacy comic strips that would go on to others. Like the aforementioned Cuddles and Bananaman, it was also home to General Jumbo, who was later a Beano annual regular, and also Cannonball Kid, who would be reprinted in the Dandy as own goal. We will cover the Nutty in its own episode down the line, but right now we're gonna focus on its biggest star, creation of Bananaman. Bananaman was created by Steve Bright, who cheekily named his child alter ego Eric after his own middle name. Bananaman is an obvious superhero parody character, and I would say he is a combination of Captain Marvel, or Shazam as he's known today, Superman, and Batman. The original strip was by Dave Donaldson and Steve Bright, and mostly drawn by John Gearing until his death in 1999. Apparently John Gearing was also on Coronation Street as a baddie. Strange fact, but I thought you ought to know. Back to Bananaman, he quickly became a fan favorite and he has a pretty decent rogues gallery, I would say. I mean, obviously it's not Spider-Man or Batman good, but this is a British children's comic with a very different tone going on. Bananaman would be an immediate hit and was the cover star of Nutty for almost its entire run. Almost. He wasn't the cover star of the very first issue, but he was on the back page of Nutty #1 in a beautiful color page. So let's have a little read. The first Bananaman comic. First things first, the artwork is awesome. It's such a good combination of classic superhero style from America with that British silliness on top of it. It's a good combination. Looking at the characters, starting with Eric. Apparently many British kids, I guess, were bald back in the day, and young Eric is no different. We see he has slept in and will be late for school. Unless it turns out Eric is not so ordinary. He comes from the moon, which is really the biggest banana in the sky. Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Crescent moon. We will ignore when it's full. Anyways, Eric becomes Bananaman, and look at this costume. It's so awesome. The suit is recognizable but different. It's not the refined costume we got later. For one thing, we get red gloves. Why? To hide the blood from his fists? I don't get it. He also has a bee made from bananas on his chest and has a cool utility belt different from the one he has in the future. His cape is also different. It reminds me of Batgirl's, honestly. It's not the kinda cool split banana skin cape he gets later. His bull-like horns are also clearly a banana. His later look, I feel that isn't immediately apparent, so it's nice to see what they were actually going for. He is also so cut and swole. Goodness! There might be some performance enhancers in those bananas. Anyways, as he rushes to school, we learn all about his powers. He's faster than the speed of sound, stronger than 20 men, and can soar through the air like a bird. Unfortunately, while potassium power is good for bones, muscles, and stopping leg cramps, which are the worst by the way, they do not increase intelligence as Batman hits a brick wall, destroying the building. Luckily, this building was due for destruction anyways, so that's very convenient. We see him turn back into Eric Wimp and continue on his doodly-doo towards school. A great start for our hero Bananaman. Good art, good story, good fun. The character was the immediate star of the comic and would get some sporadic appearances on the cover before it became official. He would get a go at being cover star on several issues, 12, 17, this super cool one on 24, also 31 and 36. All these Bananaman covers were pretty rad honestly, and must have had higher sales because by issue 41 he is the full-time cover star and Bananaman's name becomes a pretty clear title to help sell the comic. I love a lot of these early Bananaman covers. Looking back, this is my favorite art style for the character. He always has this stark cowl face and always looks so cool. How did he make a banana themed hero this cool looking? His stories were also pretty fun and wacky, never taking themselves too seriously but introduced a lot of really fun villains. Speaking of which, Bananaman villains. Some of my favorites include Dr. Gloom, a parody of Dr. Doom, Appleman who was rotten to the core, though I will admit he's not my favorite design. There was also Clayman. Yeah, they really flew close to the sun with that one. General Blight who may be inspired by some real stinker from the 40s and many more. He also has his own Catwoman equivalent with Skunk Girl. Probably not as sexy to deal with as Catwoman, but was way better than the other girl villain Bananaman had, like Witchy Woman, who was a witch. There was also other fruit and vegetable based villains like Rhubarb Man. I'm sure at some stage all of these food themed villains must have teamed up to take on Bananaman. It'd be weird if they didn't. He also had some weaknesses like moldy bananas. If you wanted to take down Bananaman, just throw a moldy banana in his face. Luckily though, Bananaman wasn't alone, as he had his own allies like Chief O'Reilly, who is right out of the 60s Batman show, and of course, Crow. Can't forget Crow. He is Eric Wimp's best friend. Oh, poor Eric. But when Eric or Bananaman are in trouble, Crow is always on hand to drop in a handy banana or two. Good old Crow. He also talks.
Oh, if only I had a...
Hey, here kid, have a banana.
Good old Crow, I thought you were a raven.
No, they're raven, I'm just mad. Right, go on kid, eat your banana.
Apparently they also considered a banana girl at one stage and decided, nah, for some reason. I mean, I heard the reason. It wasn't good. Apparently having a sister superhero and no parents around was a little too silly. Sure. Okay, buddy. A banana girl did appear at some stage later on in a Beano strip, much down the line, so at least we got her there, I guess. Bananaman's design evolves. As the comic continued, Bananaman's costume slowly changed to its iconic look. His cape became more like a banana peel like we all know and love. Issue 175, he also lost the red gloves for yellow. This wasn't the end of the changes, as more drastic redesigns were to come, but not just to Bananaman, but rather his secret identity, Eric Wimp. Issue 182, our skinhead Eric gets a new, luscious, beautiful head of hair. Part of his design is he gets those strange Bananaman horns in his hair silhouette. Other small edits are on the front of the mask becoming blue. Before it was yellow in the transformation and then always had a dark black patch. His horns were also reduced and his muscle-bound body was a little more streamlined. So, we got all these changes, but the question is... why? The Bananaman cartoon. In a world where Beano and Dandy dominated comic sales and had the most iconic characters, it was actually the Nutty of all comics that managed to get the first animated show based on Bananaman. I think British companies just never understood the wealth of material they had to draw from. This series dictated the changes to the characters similar to how Dennis the Menace would be changed for some of his. Eric would also receive a new name, Eric Twinge. I hate it. I kinda like the skinhead look, but sure look, a little hair never hurt anyone. The show ran for 3 series for a total of 40 episodes. Sounds like a lot, but the episodes were only 5 minutes long. It was doing that Danger Mouse format thing. The show also actually aired in places like America and Australia, which is pretty neat. The opening is, well, it's not iconic, but to me it is.
This is 29 Acacia Road, and this is Eric, the schoolboy who leads an amazing double life. When Eric eats a banana, an amazing transformation occurs. Eric is Bananaman, ever alert for the call to action.
The transformation, the Britishness, and of course the swimming in space. It's perfect. The show would also introduce a love interest, but only when transformed, so it's not weird, don't overthink it. This love interest came in the form of Fiona, a newsreader based on Selena Scott. Ho ho, hello nurse! Now you're wondering, what about the voice cast? Well, it turns out the goodies did the voiceovers. I have no idea who or what the goodies are, but I believe, at least at the time, and maybe still, that they were a bit of a big deal. I also think this is the show that introduced Bananaman's sidekick, Crow, so thank goodness for that. The show was okay for the time, it's very British and really dated, but I think it could be a fun future video where I torture myself to watch every episode. They are only 5 minutes long each, so how bad could it be really? So if you're intrigued by self-flagellation, then subscribe to the channel and leave some likes, comments and hypes to help out old Ashley. Go on, you know you want to. The end of Nutty. Nutty would limp on for another few years, basically being carried by Bananaman. How do I know it was Bananaman carrying them? Well, most comics got a yearly annual, a big hardback of stories to delight young and old at Christmas time, but not the Nutty. This is pretty unusual for the time, so why was this the case? Well, it's because Bananaman got the annuals. 4 annuals in fact, 84, 85, 86, and for some reason in 87. I talked about this in my video on Oink. The annuals were always dated the year ahead of its release, so 83 is when we would get the 84 edition, for example. So if Nutty ends in 85, the last annual should be 86, but Bananaman managed to get another in 87 as well. My best guess is that they had a lot of material for the 87 annual already done, and along with the popularity of the TV show, which was still airing in 86, and no doubt would be rerun a bit, so it probably made sense to do the 87 annual. While Nutty would go to that great attic in the sky, it would not spell the end for Bananaman, as he would receive the call from Dandy Town, but would the dandy be big enough for Bananaman and Desperate Dan to coexist? Let's find out. The Dandy. When British comics would merge, they would often for a few months join names, unless you are, you know, the Oink. Nutty though luckily wasn't Oink, so we got to have the Dandy and Nutty on September 21st, 1985. On the cover we see Dan removing the cloud so his banana tree gets enough light. Unfortunately, as he does this, a circus truck full of apes drive by, and seeing the banana tree they go, well, bananas. Our man Dan though gives them all a good box in the face, as he is saving these for a special pal, probably Cuddles. Inside in the Bananaman comic, Eric is swatting for his exams. Ah, very good. I get it. I get the joke. Anyways, his banana phone rings and it's the chief. Turns out Dr. Gloom is causing chaos with his newly invented sneezing ray. The comic lets us know every time Eric eats a banana, in this case from his extra fast banana dispenser, he turns into our hero, Bananaman. Bananaman then flies to the town to help and sees everyone sneezing. People, horses, and even statues. Great snot! I mean Scott. There is even a sneezing male choir who blow Bananaman away into a trash can. Being all smelly, this gives Bananaman the idea to use the sewers to sneak attack Dr. Gloom, defeating him. Hooray! Captured, he flies Gloom to the police station. We know this because of the sign on a cloud. As this is happening though, Gloom drops his sneezing ray which hits an elephant. Cut to Eric's teacher casually walking by with extra difficult exam papers. Well, you see where this is going. Cutting back, Eric is rushing to school for his exam and learns that it has been cancelled, so all's well that ends well. A really great debut Bananaman strip in the Dandy. Only 5 years and it's been a big change from the tone and look of the Nutty originals. Lots of great stuff in this comic though, a highlight for me being the banana shaped mouse hole and the violence of all the sneezing, often taking people's hair, teeth and parts of clothing off. Bananaman was off to a good start in the Dandy, and here he would remain until the comic's eventual closure, and even a little while after when they tried that digital Dandy stuff. Maybe that could have worked a few years later, but I think it needs to be in conjunction with a printed comic. You can't just expect people to cold turkey switch to paid digital comics. That was never going to work. Bananaman would have many memorable strips in the Dandy. My favorites were always the ones where he would face off against desperately unfunny Dan. These always had that big fight feel. Here is one where they play up Bananaman's bullhorns. I have a theory that if it weren't for Nutty failing, Bananaman would have eventually replaced Dan as the cover star. I think it would have helped the comic to have a more fun and recognizable character on its cover. Now look, I like Dan. I don't hate Dan. I tolerate Dan, but he wasn't exactly the most appealing character for kids to see on the cover of their comic. Especially a comic focus cover, which I think was very outdated by the 90s. I think replacing him with Bananaman and doing cool action-packed single image covers would have been a lot better than putting Cuddles and Dimples or even Jack. But then again, Nutty didn't exactly light the world on fire, so maybe it wouldn't have made much of a difference. But let me know what you all think in the comments. Could a Bananaman front page have helped the Dandy hang in there for a few more years, or would he have sunk the ship a lot sooner? Let me know. Bananaman artists. John Gearing, who had been drawing the comic since its beginning in Nutty, passed away in 1999, remaining the artist of the strip right up until his death. Over a 19-year period, he drew almost every installment, producing close to 1,000 strips. After his death, Barry Appleby and Tom Patterson took over the artwork until 2003. Steve Eric Bright then assumed drawing duties on Bananaman, continuing in the original visual style. Steve Eric Bright stepping up after being there from the beginning is kind of fun. I wonder why he waited so long. Bananaman was his baby. He would continue drawing the script until 2007. After this, we would get various artists and often reprints for a while. Following the Dandy relaunch in October 2010, Wayne Thompson took over as artist on Bananaman, adopting a style reminiscent of French cartoonist Lisa Mandel. Thompson was already a popular contributor to the Dandy, having previously drawn Jack. We won't hold that against him though. From issue 3515 onwards, his artwork shifted noticeably, becoming more cartoonish and more detailed. Although the print edition of the Dandy ended in December 2012, Bananaman continued in the digital version with artwork by Andy Janes. New Bananaman strips were later produced, drawn by Wayne Thompson and written by Nigel Otterlooney. Wayne Thompson would continue to draw Bananaman strips in the current Beano, which would be written by various different writers. Move to the Beano. In Beano and Dandy history, the only comic I can think that appeared in both was Jonah. Bananaman is the second, and he even went one step further. He appeared at the same time in both comics. Goodness. I think they saw the writing on the wall and wanted a smooth transition for the character. He had made past appearances like in issue 3065, here on the cover racing cars with Dennis. Doesn't he look just right at home? He was also in the special Beano Town racing comic, which I have already covered on the channel. He officially became a regular in issue 3618. We have a great front cover of Dennis shooting bananas into Bananaman's mouth and letting him know that he, Dennis, is still top banana around here. Not forever, Dennis, watch out. I don't have any comics from this era, but from what I understand, most of the strips were reprints as Bananaman was still a Dandy regular. When the Dandy Online finally folded, Bananaman was well established in the Beano, his new and final comic home. He would continue his banana-filled stories and would begin making sporadic appearances on the cover when the Beano removed their one mascot policy to give other characters a chance to shine. Here is a super cool issue I want to highlight. Dangerous Dan versus Bananaman. On the cover, we have a brainwashed Bananaman giving Dan the evils. The art is so beautiful, drawn and colored by those sharp bro rascals and written by big dog Nigel Otterlooney? Remember when writers and artists would have easy to pronounce and remember pen names? Maybe consider that, Mr. Otterlooney. It would really help out people like me who required speech therapists growing up. Let's open up the comic and see what we got. So, during the biggest fish competition, someone has brought a giant sea monster, which is clearly against the rules. This beautifully drawn Eric runs to transform into the amazing Bananaman, but subterfuge! It was all a trick to get a mind-controlling helmet on the hero. Inside, we see Bananaman's numbskulls panic as the device has flipped the Man of Peel's good switch to evil! Gasp! We turn over to see he is now a bad banana, but isn't sure how to be evil. Introducing the prefect, he's gonna give him some good pointers. We cut to Dan, getting his mission brief and panicking about having to fight Bananaman. Luckily the boys in the lab, the Boffins, have invented 10-minute superpowers. Enough time to save the day, but not too much time to expect it every week. We get this great panel of them flying towards each other for battle above unsuspecting contest goers as their superiors command them to defeat the other. And tap, slap, flap. For a moment I forgot this was a Beano. It was such a good build-up. Even the editor chimes in about it having more build-up than it deserved. Dan removes the hat from Bananaman, but it lands on himself, creating evil, dangerous Dan. Bananaman seems quite confused and flies away only to receive a wedgie. In retaliation, he takes the hat from Dan and we get a pretty funny panel of Banana confusing the situation and thinking they are taking turns. We turn over and see Bananaman has stolen a fish and wallops Dan into the mattress factory as his powers wear off. Unfortunately, Dan lands into a bin of spare cogs. Ouch. Ed chimes in again, wondering if this is a Calamity James script. We get this cool image of Bananaman descending all menacingly like on the kid secret agent. Is this the end of Dangerous Dan? He tries one last thing. He says it's his turn to turn evil and Bananaman happily removes the hat. Just because he had turned evil, it didn't mean he stopped being stupid. Though defeated, the prefect takes some much needed lessons from this mistake, making it a growing experience for him. We see Dan destroy the hat and the comic ends on this anticlimactic joke. Is that it? Honestly, I didn't realize it was even over, the only flaw in an otherwise excellent comic. Seeing Bananaman drawn in such a cool, detailed way was really refreshing, and the story was a lot of fun and genuinely funny. Another example of modern Beano still having stuff just as good if not better than it had in the past. In the same comic we get a traditional Bananaman story by Wayne Thompson and writer Ned Hartley. Here we see Bananaman walking in the sun enjoying his day when suddenly he is tied up above a shark-infested custard pool. Oh no! General Blight's new invention is behind this. A Right Now machine that makes what you write happen immediately. Bananaman isn't even mad. He's impressed and asks how it works as he escapes. Blight happily shows him before summoning a giant robot to attack and destroy Beano Town for reasons he doesn't remember. Bananaman tries to stop the deadly machine but gets curb stomped immediately for his trouble. Time to use the old noggin. Bananaman tricks Blight into writing to make his robot alright. This immediately makes it have no lefts or something, so Bananaman saves the day. Hooray! I don't know. Like the first comic, this is a very good strip that didn't end as strong as it could have. Maybe if they had an extra page, they could have built up Blight's illiteracy and bad spelling more for a better ending. Still, it's good to see modern Bananaman going strong after so many years. Speaking of which, the Bananaman 45th anniversary. Celebrating a 45th anniversary is weird, right? Right? I mean, it's not just me, is it? You would think maybe wait until 50, but whatever. For the occasion we got a lot of really cool Beano focused Bananaman issues. I found a little difficult to keep track of. They did a few different things, so let's have a peekaboo at the ones I have. Okay, here we go. What's wrong with this picture? Don't know. I'll tell you. What is Mike Tyndall doing here? Why? Beano has been very guilty of ruining anniversary or milestone issues with pointless celebrity cameos and guest stars. I don't know who he is. Maybe kids in the UK love him. He's a rugby player or something. You know, I wouldn't mind this if there was maybe a rugby character in the Beano or something that he could go hang out with, but why Bananaman? Maybe he was a fan, but okay. He is here now, so nothing we can do, unfortunately. At least he is drawn like the actual art style and isn't made into an uncanny Uncanny Valley drawing that doesn't match the artwork like they used to do a lot of in the past. Inside, instead of learning about Bananaman, we get this nice message from Mike that has nothing to do with the Beano. From reading it, I feel like he was more likely to bully a kid that read the Beano in school. He also seems to enjoy annoying his family, but it's all for charity, which makes it okay, I guess. But is this really the issue for it? He finally actually mentions the Beano at the end when he says, "Read my Beano, it's the best ever." Okay, calm down, Mike. The best Beano ever was a sports issue from the 2000s and it didn't have any pointless celebrities. Am I too harsh though? I'm sorry, let's have a look at what we got. The Bananaman story is not my cup of tea. Mike is the main character and honestly I just don't care for him. The only part I enjoyed in the whole thing was the Dandy Town and Nutty Town sign on the mountain. A nice little touch. The comic is very, I don't know, very feel good about and believe in yourself, blah blah blah, yuck. No thank you, Mike. I'm happy with my self-loathing and inadequacies, and you can't make me change. Thankfully, we get Bananaman in other stories this issue. He pops up in the Har Har Prank vlog strip and it's fun seeing him in a different style reminiscent of his nutty appearance. We also get a numbskull story with our hero, which is pretty fun, and even better, we get another crossover with Dangerous Dan. It's a very quick cameo, but it's very good. Dan tries to give some villains a slip, but it turns out bananas aren't actually that slippery. The best part is Bananaman doesn't even bother to help out. Oh Bananaman, you are completely useless. The Sharp Rose and the writer for this, Danny Pearson, deliver some quality stuff. He also gets to cameo in the classic star strips, Minnie the Minx, the Bash Street Kids, Dennis the Menace, and assumably he helps Roger dodge, which we all know means nothing and everything. A lot of what I like to call filler pages also get a heavy Bananaman theming, so at least the rest of the comic isn't too bad. All in all, 6 out of 10 for a Bananaman anniversary comic. His main story was actually about Mike more than anything else, so that drops it a lot of points. It would have been cool to have seen some nods to history like him visiting Nutty and Dandy Town and seeing some old comic strips. Maybe the story could have been some trick to help distract him from arriving at his birthday celebration. The kind of stuff, you know, that they used to do in the past that was pretty fun. Maybe the 40th edition Beano special about him did a better job, but this one, not so great. I don't want to end on such a sour note though, so let's have a quick gokity-gok at one more thing. The Bananaman graphic novel. The very next issue of the Beano, we get one of their lucky bag deals that advertises 2 comics for the price of 1. The second comic being what they call the first ever Bananaman graphic novel. 52 pages of superhero silliness. Let's check this bad boy out. Its cover is beautiful. Something about how they color it, particularly Bananaman, gives it the 1980s TV show vibe. I also really appreciate the not too nutty in the corner. I would say even today, Bananaman is still more associated with the dandy than anything else, but it's good to get the reference to where his career begun. However, I do have a nitpick because of course I do. It's me. The first graphic novel, huh? I guess we are just not counting any of those long dandy library comics where individual characters would get big stories. Yeah, no, they don't count. Don't worry about it. Ignore that. This is the first one because we say so. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just a quick flip through. Maybe in the future I can cover this by itself, but I feel it's still too new for me to just read it all out. I will say one thing that disappoints me, however. The art style doesn't match the cover like I was hoping. It isn't even consistent as they change artists regularly throughout. I think one consistent artist would have been better. It looks fun though and more in line with what I was hoping for the previous issue to be. If they ever do another, I hope they get the Sharp Rose or Emily McGorman Bruce to draw the whole thing and maybe do a more action-packed superhero style story. You can still keep it silly, but I think it would be better than this kind of birthday theme, which should have been used in the last issue, but of course we had to fit in Mike. I hope Mike doesn't beat me up. Conclusion. So there we are, all bananaed out. Hopefully you enjoyed this haphazard look back at Bananaman's history. I will cover his series at some point in the future and hopefully get around to reviewing Nutty and delving more into the dandy, so this won't be the last time we see the Man of Peel. Now let's make like a banana and get out of here. Another character profile in the books. Who would you like me to say a thing or two about a thing or two next in the future? Roger the Dodger? Desperate Dan? Jonah perhaps? Remember him? Whoever, comment below and let old Ashley know. Doodles!